Does TRT build muscle? Welcome to this channel. If you want to learn more about the most cutting-edge science-based information in the world of hormone optimization, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. But before we start the interview with Dr. Jeffrey Ruterbusch and Gil T, let me talk about the thumbnail. By the end of 2016, before I got onto TRT, of course my testosterone levels were very low. I didn't know that, I didn't realize that at the time, but I felt very tired, low libido, all the typical low T symptoms. I still was working out and I weighed about 70 kilos, even after almost 25 years of consistent lifting. Then in January 2017 I got tested and I got on TRT, but not so successful, first with the typical gels that didn't get my levels up where they need to be. And afterwards I tried very shortly injections before I went on the transscrotal testosterone cream. Then you see the other picture. 18 months later, by September 2018, I weighed around 80 kilo, 10 kilos more than before TRT. And there I did all the same kinds of training, 3 times a week, working out in my own home gym. Of course, I had to eat more, but I was more hungry on TRT. And I gained about 10 kilos of lean muscle mass in about 1 year on TRT. So next to the interview. What's your opinion, Dr. Jeffrey Ruterbusch?
Well, I don't have an opinion. I have facts, man. Yeah, hell yes, it does. I mean, I experimented with it years ago. I've done studies with it both undergraduate and graduate level. I mean, the book on testosterone indicates it does, and it gives different mechanisms for it. Let me tell you something. We used to think in the day that it caused muscle accretion due to its ability to retain nitrogen. Nitrogen was anabolic, and we knew that. We knew that, but it didn't. So all the science said, yeah, it does, and it also increases the number of satellite cells, which are young, mature muscle, young, immature muscle cells that do go on to develop muscle tissue. Testosterone does not increase hyperplasia; it increases hypertrophy. It won't give you many more cells. It gives you bigger muscle. Now, so in this book of testosterone, the recent theory is that it goes way deep. It goes into the stem cell. They've shown now that testosterone not only increases the cell line, myocyte cell line, the muscle, increasing, the mesenchymal stem cells. Well, more will go into creating muscle tissue. But more importantly, testosterone mitigates or inhibits the adipocyte cell line. Interesting. So that's how that's the most recent theory as to why it's a good repartitioning agent. So why does it cause muscle accretion and decrease body fat? Because it increases stem cells going towards muscle tissue, and it decreases those stem cells that want to go towards fat tissue. Two-tiered approach. That's the most recent theory. That's how it works. And again, I've done body fat determinants, measurements for repartitioning approach on my men who are on testosterone that don't change anything in their life, nothing. Don't go to the gym, and they do gain muscle tissue, and they do lose body fat, and they've changed nothing else. Again, that's TRT, not mega doses or super physiological doses. But yes, it does create more muscle mass on TRT if you did nothing else. I don't promote doing nothing else. Please get off your butt and go to the gym, get the best results by doing some things, changing the lifestyle. But yeah, so Gil had some interesting thoughts. They said I was interested to find what Gil had determined. He said that I got some theories on that. So, what's your theory on that, Gil? I'm gonna put you on the spot. I just want to know what you're thinking.
Yeah, no, put me on the spot all you want. I mean, Steve knows this already. We've done enough videos for him to tell you. I'm not a notes guy. I don't like to prep. Yeah. If he sends me questions, that's great. I tell him he doesn't have to. I mean, if I know it, I know it. If I don't, I'll tell you I don't. Yeah. I'm not a guy who's going to Google stuff 5 minutes before we hop on a video and keep a little
Yeah.
cheat sheet. I speak from the
Yeah.
heart and I speak from the mind, and
Gotcha.
that's it. So put me on the spot all day long, by all means. I'm never too good to learn. Here's the deal. I believe you need 3 direct things, few indirect, but 3 direct things in order to stimulate muscle growth. And again, just to reiterate what Jeff said, we're talking hypertrophy, not hyperplasia. We're not developing new fibers. We're increasing the size of the existing. You need building blocks in the form of amino acids. How do we derive those? We eat protein sources. Our body breaks down protein in a catabolic response via enzymes in our digestive system. It then shuttles the amino acids into the cell. And in the cell, the process of building protein, which I won't bore anyone with, but protein synthesis begins to occur. You need an anabolic environment in order for protein synthesis to occur efficiently. Okay, that is number 2. And number 3, you need the satellite cells of muscle to carry that into damaged area. Where does the damage come from? It comes from stimulus. That stimulus, and to talk more about bridging the difference between a social term to a scientific term, Jeff said guys that don't work out will still build muscle. I want to just clarify on this. Guys that don't work out are still working out. We think of working out as going to the gym and actually putting up reps. When you get out of bed in the morning and you're moving, your muscles contracting and extending is a form of exercise. Muscle fibers are torn. Every cell in your body is replenished over time. Muscle fibers get torn, micro tears, they get replaced. The more you work out and the more intense your workout is, the more damage you're going to do to your muscle. So yes, you're going to have an exponential effect by actually consciously going to the gym and doing resistance training. If you don't, it doesn't mean you're not moving your own body. It doesn't mean you're not walking, you're not running, you're not jumping, you're not picking things up and putting them down and still creating muscle tissue damage, which requires repair. So we stimulate muscle by damaging it. We give our body what it needs to rebuild, and then we synthesize protein to rebuild. This is where testosterone comes in. Protein synthesis is greatly enhanced with an anabolic environment provided by anabolic hormones. Now, these anabolic hormones in a healthy young male follow a circadian rhythm, which means that you're producing the most while you sleep, and then they peak in the morning hours and they start to decline over the course of the day. We have a 24-hour period, and presumably we're spending about 8 to 10 hours in an elevated or optimal testosterone range, and then we are in a decline the rest of the 16 hours or 14 hours remaining. Guys on TRT are no longer following our circadian cycle. They're spending 60 to 66% more time in that optimal anabolic zone. So if you think about it, if your testosterone level on your morning test as a natural 25-year-old healthy guy who works out is 1,000 of total T and 27 free T, which is great, okay, how much time are you actually spending in a 24-hour period living in that anabolic optimal zone compared to a guy now on TRT who is in a physiological optimal range of similar numbers, spending 24 hours a day across the course of a year in that environment, right? So it's not apples for apples, because the guy on TRT is always going to have that anabolic edge of spending more time. It's like when we train, we talk about time under tension. We don't say, well, I spent 2 hours in the gym, right? 15 minutes I was lifting, and then an hour 45 I was texting on my phone. We say, how much time were you under tension? All right, so the natural guy is that guy that spent 2 hours in the gym because he only had 2 hours. The guy on TRT also spent 2 hours, but he spent 2 hours lifting. He's going to get a lot more out of it. All right, so your body is going to have a much better effect on TRT as a non-TRT guy. Even if your levels are quote unquote the same, they're stable and they're there 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and you mentioned satellite cells. You know, the only real supplement as a board of sports nutritionist, creatine is the only legit supplement out there that actually increases satellite cells. And HMB, if you put them together, I know we're going off topic here, but HMB actually decreases catabolism after a workout. So you got the one that is increasing satellite cells, HMB is decreasing the catabolism after the workout. So those two supplements, if combined, at least from a sports medicine's perspective, like I have, are the two best that I tell my patients, hey, you know, if you want to spend your money on good sports supplements, creatine, HMB. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and similar to how, bone, osteocytes have osteoblasts and osteoclasts, which are constantly, keeping a homeostatic balance with calcium, of building bone and scraping away bone. I believe that muscles work in the same way with myoblasts and myoclasts, where you have a catabolic response and an anabolic response. We know that androgens essentially decrease catabolism. They have an inhibition response on cortisol, which is a catabolic hormone, and they have an increased response on nitrogen retention, which promotes anabolism. So they're giving you the environment that's conducive to build more muscle. You still have to do the work. You still have to supply the proper fuel. And those are the three direct that I mentioned earlier. One of the indirect factors is you need quality sleep, because contrary to what people believe, you do not build muscle in the gym. You're actually breaking it down. You build muscle when you're resting and your body has a chance to recover. Mm-hmm. And that is an area where a lot of guys fail, whether or not they're on TRT. It's a very important point to note. Sleep is your best friend.
Okay, awesome, guys.